Today is Monday, August the 22nd, 2022. And I'll call us to order. And I will ask that we be led in a moment of prayer by Commissioner James H. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to everyone that in attendance and those who are watching later on to pause with us for a moment, in remembrance of the tragedy that's still unfolding in eastern Kentucky. Our fellow Kentuckians are really engrossed in a battle for survival. And so all I want is just to pause for a moment in recognition of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll ask that we be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Alan Turbyfield. If you'll come up and join us. And lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
He's old vet. He's a vet. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right. And Commissioner Atkins, thank you for your time of remembrance. I would ask everyone to hold those poor folks in your hearts and in your minds and in your prayers. And I'm still frustrated because I don't know what to do. And you can only send so many clothes, and that's not going to get it. So anyway, anybody got any ideas? We'd love to hear it. I've heard no disapproval of the agenda, so I will assume it meets your approval. We'll move right into the section called Hear the Public. This is the public's opportunity to have 3 minutes at the podium to address any item that is on tonight's agenda.
Mayor, I think before you proceed, I believe we have an agenda item that was requested to be added by staff late in the day.
Is that 13A?
Yes, sir, it is.
I've got it down.
Is the commission aware of it?
That would be the amendment comp plan. They are now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. If you wish to, I'll take that motion.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now, 3 minutes at the podium on any item that is on tonight's agenda. There will be a similar opportunity later on for any item that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have any takers?
Good evening. First, just a quick thank you.
Introduce yourself first, please. Pull that microphone down. There you go.
Tracy Butler, citizen of Danville. First, a quick thank you. I'm not sure who to thank specifically on an item I brought forward previously about some gravel spilling into the sidewalk on 4th Street across from the library. I noticed that has been swept up, so not sure who addressed that, but thank you for that solution. I think if that's just attended to regularly, that'll be a workable solution for us, so thank you. As far as agenda items, something that is regularly on the agenda, usually the second item, prayer. I know today we had more of a moment of silence, which I'm going to request and recommend would be more appropriate for this venue, as I think prayer is an official item on the agenda and in the minutes, and prayer led by our elected representatives in their official capacity is problematic for many reasons. I think that can disenfranchise some of the members of our community, and although we're following the letter of the law, certainly no one's inferring that we are establishing any law, of course establishing a religion. I think that we know the law is the minimum standard of behavior we must adhere to. Nothing says we can't do better, strive to be better. And I think that if we expand that into more of a moment of recognition or silence or something that really reflects everyone in our community, not a specific religion or type of religion, that would be more appropriate.
Anything else? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I didn't know she was going to do that.
Going once, going twice. We'll move right on to the item 1, which we will postpone because our guest is yet to arrive. We'll move right into item 2, and this is an update on the CASA program, Court-Appointed Special Advocate, a very important program in all communities.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I gotta raise that up. I'm Tammy Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of CASA of the Bluegrass. So this year, we have served 52 children in Boyle County. We have 31 volunteers assigned in Boyle and Mercer County, and we have 7 children that are currently waiting for a CASA advocate. So if anyone feels led to step up and fill that position of to becoming an advocate, please see me after. I'd be glad to tell you more about our program. Currently, we have a fundraiser going on that will be September the 9th at Buffalo Trace called Taste of the Trace. We were also chosen by Buffalo Trace to raffle off a flight of Weller bourbon, and so we're selling those raffle tickets at $50 each. We're having a Jeep and bike fundraising night at Mi Pueblo. So Denise, I think you have, Miss Terry, I think you have a Jeep, so I hope to see you there. That will be September the 4th out at Mi Pueblo number 2. We just finished up today our Kcn Audit, where they come in and audit our program to make sure that we're adhering to all the national CASA standards and local standards. And we finished up our volunteer training last week, and so we swore in our 5th volunteer for the year for Boyle County. So that's about all I have.
Any?
Could you send us an email with those dates and times of those events?
I sure will. Yes, yes, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you all
you.
so much, and thank you all for including us in funding again
Ma'am,
this year.
you stated that you had 32 children that were waiting for,
No, we have 7 children that are waiting for a
7.
volunteer. Yes. Yes.
And how do people contact you?
On our website, they can go to
Okay.
our website, which is casaofthebluegrass.org. Any of our email addresses is basically Tammy, T-A-M-I, at casaofthebluegrass.org, or any of our staff that are there. But if you just go to our website, then that will get you in the door. And we're also located right behind Baskin Robbins in the Jeffrey Baird Complex. So we have a sign on our door and out there. We actually also just received a grant from Kentucky Colonels, and so we received all new office conference furniture. So now we can have a nice little space in there for volunteer trainings. So come check out our office sometimes.
Thanks.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
And Jane is one of our wonderful volunteers, so.
Thank you. Did you skip number 1?
Mike's not here.
Yes.
He's not here yet?
You need to pay attention.
I know.
Item 3 is a report from the Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Turbyfield.
Yes, thank you very much. Brian Hunsley, who's our board vice chair, is with me also. First of all, I really want to thank the city commission for their involvement and support of all the economic development efforts in the community, and staff, city staff also. And especially thank you for your engagement during this time of transition in the discussion, sometimes lively discussion about changes that needed to be made and what we should do to move forward. And what I'm here to review with you this evening is that plan to move forward as the EDP board last week passed the new bylaws transitioning into the Development Corp. The DBCDC, the Development Corp, or the DC. However, we'll figure out how we're going to shorten that and exactly what we're going to call it. So I think the commissioners are all fairly familiar with where we are, but I did want to go through a PowerPoint quickly, briefly, to see if there are any questions, kind of hit the highlights, and then see if there are any questions, any follow-up on what we've done and where it goes from here. The first slide in the PowerPoint is the most important slide. And this is what basically guided our work over the past, 8 months or so. And that is, what are we trying to do with this transition from the old EDP 17-person board to the new development corp? We wanted a more nimble, responsive decision-making organization. We wanted to improve staff supervision. We needed to integrate the EDA, a new entity, which is a big part of that support for economic development that this commission has done. We need to integrate them into our efforts, but we also have to make sure that we continue to engage a broad range of community members and resources, because the economic challenges are pretty massive, and we need a lot of help, bottom line. We also wanted to make sure that as we make these changes, that we're promoting a good faith effort by all our partners to work together, because the key to all this is working together. The next page just shows the partners as defined by the new bylaws. As you all are aware, the city of Danville is a partner. They're a current partner, and they were part of the approval process through the new bylaws, so they're a new partner. The BCIF is also a current partner. The EDA is a new entity, but their new bylaws reflect them being a member, and then our bylaws invite them in to be a member. And then the Boyle County Fiscal Court is a past member of the EDP. However, they pulled out of the EDP, so we're asking them to rejoin the Development Corp, so that's why they're listed differently there. The kind of the key to this new structure was to have a much smaller board, but then how do you still engage all those different community members? We're doing that through an advisory council. The members of that advisory council initially are defined by the bylaws, and then the board later can add and delete advisory council members. So you see the initial list of entities in those 6 different groups: municipalities, community organizations, educational institutions, utilities. The other is really health, human services, and other, and then private donors. If a private donor above a certain level is not already a member, then they can qualify through their donation level. The key to the advisory council is this is where we get funding, so that not as many taxpayer dollars have to be spent for administrative support for economic development, resources, volunteers, expertise, experience. And in the area of funding, currently, the non-governmental entities are contributing about $130,000 a year for our economic development efforts. And as far as volunteers, there's 50-plus volunteers engaged in different committees, different activities for economic development. This is a little bit of more detail on the advisory council. The key there is that new members can be added by the board once it's established. An organization can come in and request to be added. Monetary contributions are not required to be on the advisory council, but they may be solicited for monetary contributions. And then that advisory council, they select who from their organization is going to be on the council, and then they can stay as the representative as long as that organization wants them there. Now, I did want to go back, because in a minute we're going to look at the new board makeup, but I did want to go back because there's been a lot of discussion, and it's been good, healthy discussion about the size of the board. Clearly, one of our goals is to have a smaller board, as small as possible. About 10 months ago, in some early discussions, we kind of threw out the idea of could we have a 7-person board? And, my first reaction to that was it'd be great if we could do it. If we could have a board that small, that certainly is nimble. However, as we started getting into the details, we felt like we did need to expand a little bit beyond that. But in response to doing that, we established a personnel committee which makes sure that the supervision function is still being done by a small group and is still well-defined. As we continued that development and those discussions, there were other scenarios for a 7-member board that were thrown out and discussed. But in the end, we did believe that the ideal scenario is the one that I'll show you next, which is a 9-person board made up of City of Danville, Boyle County Fiscal Court, each with two directors, the EDA and BCF with 1, and then a total of 3 from all those advisory council members. Now, you'll see at the top of this slide, this does mention this is in the case if the county does join. So if the county joins, like we hope they do, this will be the board makeup. And let me point out, so for the City of Danville, the bylaws state that those two positions are the mayor, so that is by position. Whoever the mayor is, they occupy one of those seats. And then the second is a commissioner appointed by you all. That can be the current representative, Commissioner Caudle, or if you all decide on a different one, it can be a different commissioner. That is you have complete control of that appointment. Now, this just shows, again, if the county does not join, then those two positions just go away. So we end up with a 7-person board, but without the 2 county seats. The officers in the organization, pretty straightforward. Again, selected by the organization board. Committees, like I said, we added a personnel committee to make sure that the supervision of staff was very clear and controlled by a small group of people. You can see the makeup there. Also need to point out that the board, once it's established, can still form any other committees they want to. So if they want to have a different committee to do the search process for the new executive director, they can do that. They can have standing committees, which are permanent, or they can have limited purpose committees. And then if the county does not join the development corp, the only difference is the makeup of that 3-person committee changes a little bit. And the last slide is just the employees. Again, just clarifying or delineating the responsibility of employees and the supervision of those employees. Are there any questions about the specifics of the organizational structure or the bylaws?
So on the Personnel Committee, it would take a majority vote of the board to delineate a search committee?
So yes, so that the board can elect a permanent committee, or the chair can appoint a temporary committee. So you could do that either way.
So the Personnel Committee doesn't do the search?
It's up to the board. They can.
Okay.
The board may, when the board meets, that's of course going to be one of their primary early on tasks. The board may meet and decide, okay, here's the Personnel Committee, let them do it, but let's augment it with 2 other people. It's completely up to the board.
On the first slide, it talks about integrating the EDA. I attended several meetings, and I never really saw anybody there from the EDP. So was there any communication? Has there been?
Yes.
Like, have you attended meetings, or?
There's been a lot of communication. I met with Dr. Rouse today.
Okay.
And the key is they are a member of the new development corp. Their bylaws, the bylaws that the EDA recently adopted, are completely consistent with the new development corp bylaws. So I think they're fully integrated.
And the other comment, I attended a fiscal court meeting, and they had talked about, with the transition, that they seemed to feel like there was a lack of measurable goals and measurable successes. I think some of that was just communication issues, because like maintaining or retaining a business, that's a success, but that wasn't always well communicated. But Magistrate Kaywood, he talked about median income being low for our area, those type of measures. So how are we going to measure levels of success?
Well, that's completely up to the new board. And I think that's something that has been highlighted during this transition process that we need to do a better job. Now, I will say this, I think part of it is communication, because we did have some measurable, some measures that we were monitoring, but those weren't always communicated well. And then I think there were other things that should be measured that we weren't measuring. So that's completely up to the new board to establish what those criteria are and how they're reported, when they're reported.
Right. And all the partners like the EDA and the county
Sure.
and the city can say, hey, this would be a really good measurement that we're interested
Right,
in.
right, yeah. Yeah, and I agree, that's something that we need to improve. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Not necessarily a question, but a comment, and that is to thank you guys for moving this forward. It's something that city and county both have requested in the past, and we're there now, and it's a new beginning. So I'm excited.
And let me just give you just a couple seconds on the process from here. The new entity has been approved. There's a delay. It goes into effect 1 October to give the county time to make their decision about joining, and to also make sure that all the other directors are lined up. The advisory council has to be established. They get to vote in their 3 people. So there's a little bit of a transition period that we're in right now. And I think you all are aware also that Terry Crowley's on staff now in an interim role. And we're actively searching and interviewing for the workforce development position. So staff is in the best shape it's been in a long time, and geared up to help the new board move forward.
Alan, you've got 20 people in the advisory council group. What's their process for getting that to 3?
So what the bylaws basically say is, all those people get together and they pick 3. They vote for 3. There's a little bit of guidance in there about them being staggered terms and things like that. But basically, it's up to staff to notify all those people, get their representatives, get a meeting scheduled, and then hold that nomination election process.
That could be real cumbersome and real interesting.
That's why we delayed the effective date till October 1st. That's the thing that's going to take the most time. Now, going forward, since those are staggered terms, only one advisory council position will come open each year. So in the 4th fiscal quarter each year, the advisory council just has to, elect one. So yes, starting out, staff's going to be hustling. Terry and Josh are going to be hustling to get that done the next month.
Anything further?
No, I'd like to thank Alan as well. I think when you took on the job, you didn't realize, you thought you were biting into a pepper, not necessarily a ghost pepper, but yeah, thank you, appreciate it. You did a good job.
Well, I've enjoyed working with all of you all, and all the other community members who've been, put a lot of time and effort into it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to back up, if you don't mind, to item 1, and that is the update of the Danville, Boyle County African American Historical Society. Mr. Michael Hughes. Welcome, sir. I got a shirt for a fella. He doesn't like the old word. The old said, I'm not old. It says, I'm not old. It says, I'm classic.
Seasoned veteran. Can't remember.
There you go.
Season, that's it, yeah.
Good afternoon. When we just go ahead and say, I'd like to say thank you to the city of Danville for the many years that you have supported us in our mission to share the history, African-American history in the community of Danville. We certainly appreciate what the money that has been allocated to us, and then all the help you guys have did to make sure that we continue to grow. We started in 2012 and 13. Sorry, see, I tell you, old man. We started in 2013, and we continue to grow. This week coming, we'll have our 6th edition of the Soul of 2nd Street. The 2 years of COVID from 20 to 21 took quite a toll on the African American community, and we know that we won't be able to do it as big as we had. We was in a head of steam, I like to say, but we are continuing because we want the city of Danville and the county and the state to know that we're still here, and that we were here. So the funds that you guys provide to us makes a big difference, not only in financial sense, but it gives us room to grow. If you have any questions for me, I'd like to see if I can answer them. Yeah.
You didn't.
Went to Soul 2nd Street this year?
The Soul of 2nd Street will be this weekend, starting on Friday. We have our history conference that will be at the Danville Boyle County Library on Friday evening from 3 to 8. Saturday, we will have the festival in the park. Music festival, we like to call it, but we like to call it more than that. We like to think that we're a family reunion with people that's not related, That's what we look at, because it's just, if I can go back just a little bit, till I say our first festival that was in 2015, I think, 14 or 15, we had 2 ladies that went to Bates School and hadn't seen each other in over 50 years. So one of the ladies said, I think my friend Lucretia is here. And so I went to the stage and I said, Lucretia Bolliston, are you in the audience? And she came to the stage, and her friend Phyllis Key, they got together and they maintained a relationship. Phyllis Key was actually passed in the first year of in 2021, but the thing is that after 50 years, you get to see somebody, and they maintain a phone and relationship and visiting each other for the whole time until she got, sick and passed. And the things that the city does for us is, there's a word they call priceless, and I like to put that on. Small things are priceless to me, to us, So I just like to say once again, and we thank the city for how they have supported us. I want to tell you that also for the fall, some things grow from what you do. I like to put it like that. For this we started out with just the fall semester. Center College we've been working with Center College, and we'll have a display in the foyer all the way around that will and it was originally scheduled for the fall semester. But they decided, and with other people coming aboard, that the display will be there for the whole year. So, and I would like you, I think you will really be impressed with what you will see there, So, I think somebody else had a question.
And where will that be, Mike?
That will be in the foyer, do you call it foyer? In Center College, in Norton Center.
Norton Center.
Norton
Gotcha,
Center,
gotcha.
around the foyer.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tell them about your latest project. It just cost me $22 or something, right?
Okay. And we also, I need to tell about that. 'Cause
you do.
I need to sell some books, right? We come together last year and started talking about producing a book that would talk about. So we have a book called African Americans in Boyle County, and it is a book, and it's paperback book that I meant to bring one in. And like I say, I was rushing, when Tony called me and said, I think you're a little late. So what the book is about, it has photographs, captions, talk about all the people that has come through and has lived in Boyle, not all the people, but a lot of in the neighborhoods, the black neighborhoods that used to be, and all the social clubs and all the things. And it's really, we're really proud of the book, you know, and it can be purchased for $25, $43, you know, so. And it is also on Amazon, so, you know, so we are really excited about that. So, so many things going on, and like say, I meant to mention that, but this week kind of slips up on you, you know, and now we in full gear trying to get everything ready for this coming weekend. So that is some of the things that we're doing. Anyone else have any other questions?
So you've about filled up your museum where you are. Where's the annex gonna be?
Well, we're hoping to not move, but annex to Grayson's Tavern. You know, that's what we're trying to do. We want to be able to because we just don't have the room. The things, we grew so fast, and, you know, we started out, I guess, in 2013 with 2nd Street. I'll tell you a little something else, that because when we first started, Miss Barbara Hewlett asked me to come up on 2nd Street and talk to some kids that had come from Richmond, Kentucky for spring break. And at that time, I really didn't have, and I had no photos of 2nd Street. I only knew what I knew in my head because I lived 2nd Street. I lived in the pool rooms. You know, I lived in the clubs for a while, you know, and then I figured out I was too young to spend the rest of my life on 2nd Street, so I went back to school, you know. So, but during that time, I learned a lot, and I kept all the stories and stuff in my head. And then when I was up on 2nd Street with the kids, that Barbara Hewlett had asked me to show 2nd Street, all I could do was tell them there used to be a barber shop there, there used to be restaurants here, and the kids were looking at me like, okay, well, go ahead and finish up so we can finish the rest of our spring break, you know. So. But although the kids didn't get, I got it because I said, wow, this story needs to be told. And it needs to be told, and so that was when I started looking for photographs, and my great aunts lived in a house down in Parksville, and they had some photos, 2 to 3 photos of maybe 6 or 7 photos of 2nd Street. And I put them on Facebook, and people started to, and so we started with about 30 photos. We have well over 5,000 now, so, you know, and a bunch of them are in our book, you know, and we also want to produce a 2nd book, you know, and so because this story is what is the mission that we started on, and we want to continue that. You know.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
every now and then you find somebody that finds their passion and calling in life. Yep. And you have found yours, sir, and this was nothing until you got a hold of it. And so anything, I mean, you're nice to give us accolades, but the accolades go to you, sir. This thing would not exist without you.
I appreciate
And so the entire community owes you a big round of applause.
You know, before I go, I would like to say thank you, but I want, a couple years ago, you probably all know that I think I had COVID before people knew what COVID was. I got really sick, and it was many nights I laid there in the hospital bed, and I just prayed and said, Lord, what is my purpose, you know, and I guess he said, well, I'm going to show you. So, you know, he brought me out of it. So I said when I was going then, but after I come out of that, I said, you know, I want to keep going, you know. So far, so good. All right.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What did you say about it?
When will you be back?
Oh, wow.
Everybody's asking me that.
Oh, okay. Well, we want to come back before it gets cold. I don't know if we can, you know, because the rain didn't cooperate. Yeah. You have to talk to somebody else hiring me on it.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah. Next agenda item is a proclamation about City Government Month. I'm going to ask Commissioner Terry to read that, please.
It's a little bit small on my screen here. This is the proclamation for City Government Month. Whereas civic education in Kentucky schools is important to ensure future generations are engaged and involved in their local community and its governance. And whereas elementary schools are a prime location for the introduction of local government principles and responsibilities. Whereas involving and informing students of local government programs and duties can provide an opportunity for entire families to connect with vital city services and programs. And whereas there are 416 cities in Kentucky and 55% of the state's population lives in a city. Whereas City Government Month is a civics awareness campaign that educates elementary school students about city services by providing teachers, lesson plans, a coloring activity book, and an implementation guide. And whereas City Government Month calls on city officials to get involved in their local schools and in educating and engaging elementary school students in city government. And whereas the Kentucky League of Cities Board of Directors has declared September 2022 as City Government Month in Kentucky. Now therefore be it resolved that Mayor G. Michael Paris and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Danville hereby proclaim September 2022 as City Government Month in the City of Danville, and that city officials and employees are encouraged to collaborate with local elementary schools to educate students about their city government and to engage them in city services.
You did that pretty well.
Yeah. I
Thanks.
move we approve that into the record, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Second, anyone?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you. Discussion?
Are we planning anything specifically for that month?
Mr.
No.
City Manager?
I would ask that future generations and future leaders of this city please implement something engaging with our local schools.
Finger puppets?
We usually have
something?
schools that do tours in the spring during testing time. So we bring them in and give them a tour of the police department, and they come in here and we talk to them a little.
We have a really cool fire department. too.
We do.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 5 is the approval of the minutes of August the 8th as well as August the 15th. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll offer a motion to approve the minutes of those two meetings as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 6 is the future land use map amendment for East Main Street. And who's going to lead that discussion? Is it going to be
Standing
Josh,
up.
Jeffrey? Welcome, Mr. Baird.
Actually, that was a clerical error, so that the Flume Amendment for East Main Street was a final judgment on P&Z. So, but we can discuss the zone change at 1695 Lancaster Road.
Okay. Wait a minute, I'm confused.
That one doesn't require your all's approval.
I'm confused.
From what my understanding is that the Flume Amendment doesn't require your all's. That's a final decision from the planning zoning. So that was just a clerical error that she put that on there.
Okay.
Apologize for that.
Okay, what about the zone change for that property?
The zone change for 1695 Lancaster Road, I don't know if you all have the minutes from the meeting.
Is there not a zone change recommendation for East Main Street?
No, ma'am, because it was a flume, it was a map amendment, and then, so when they amended the map, it was properly zoned. That was just, she made a mistake.
Okay. You didn't change the zoning on that?
We changed
You
the
changed the
map.
flume to match the zoning.
Correct.
Okay, carry on.
So, the zone change for 1695 Lancaster Road, that was three something additional acres to the 80-something acres that was approved back in November 21. There was much discussion was regarding, why they could come back for that, and then the reasoning was that they needed that extra 3 acres for location of where the ideal location for engineers or whomever to place their distillery. Most of the conversation at that time went distillery in the historic home or that's on the property or probably within 100 yards of each other. So there was a lot of discussion about, the efforts to restore that and certainly not to demolish it or cause it to go into any further disrepair or so. Long story short, that we've got conditions to that zone change. And I think the conditions are that the acreage we rezoned, 3 acres plus the acreage that already was zoned, that the only thing that can be used, that land can be used for under that zone is what it was zoned for, which is a distillery and rick houses and any ancillary projects that go along with the same. So if it were to no longer be that, then it is strictly conditioned that it be used for that purpose. And then there was a additional condition that was put on that nothing that they do going forward would harm the house or cause the house to be demolished.
I didn't see that in here, Jeffrey.
All right, let me,
Commissioner Holland may be on it.
okay, that's part of it was the motion. The motion for the amendment, and then I think the commission further incorporates the applicant's proposed development conditions, found the applicant has stated its intent that such that zone amendment and proposed development are accompanied by no intent to demolish the historic house on the property, and the development plan as conceived includes no plan to remove the house during construction of the distillery. That was the motion.
That's on page 14 in our handout, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see it. So, educate me on a motion like that. Is that a hard and fast recommendation? I mean,
That was the motion. That's what it was voted on. Now, I'm not an attorney. I think the city attorney can probably answer that better than myself.
Yeah, the motion isn't binding unless it's actually in the written conditions. So unless the written conditions are updated to include what was in the motion, then they won't be recorded with the document itself.
can you,
So typically, what you would require is that the conditions, the motion would require the conditions be updated to include a certain clause prior to recordation and approval. So, which could still be achieved, I presume.
How would you go about doing that?
The developer, I mean, if it was done that way and the developer submitted the conditions, they would need to resubmit the conditions with the added stipulation.
So do we need to
Postpone?
deny this or just send it back?
Tonight is just the presentation, so you could approve, we don't have a meeting for 3 weeks. So that would give time for us to contact council for the applicant to submit the conditions. And so long as it was submitted in accordance with what the motion was made by the planning commission, then you could have it ready for your first reading.
Does that work?
That's ball's in your court now, so, I mean, that's,
Okay. What else, sir?
that's all I have.
I did have another question, actually. This says there's no plan to remove the house during construction of the distillery. Is that the only time period in which this house is protected?
Well, again, I'm not an attorney. I think the intent there was for them not to be able to use the construction of distillery as a means to demolish the home, or, and also to protect the home from anything during the construction of distillery.
So
I mean,
I
it's-
guess my question is, what happens after construction is complete? Is this house going to be
Well, I mean, if you
protected?
put it in a condition, it's part of the condition, so.
Counselor Dexter, can we work on that language?
I can. I think what I'll ask is the planning commission's counsel to contact counsel for the applicant to solidify those prior to your vote at your next meeting in 3
Good
weeks.
move. Good move.
Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
And before Mr. Baird leaves, I just want to point out to the commission, I think what we have before us is an actual zone change application for East Main Street. There may have been a flume amendment as well. However, we have in our packet that the planning commission did vote to recommend a zone change for East Main. So the letter states that it was a zone change request, changing the zoning from RM3, multifamily residential, to
Okay.
RM2 to RM3.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
I just had the flumes. I overlooked the map. Yeah, the future land use map, I'm sorry. So she sent me a note on the flume, so I misunderstood that. So, yeah, so we did rezone that. You want me to go through what that was for?
I think probably for the benefit of the
I
public,
think
yes.
it's, I believe it was 16 or 24 housing units for 50 and over. And I believe out of the 16 or the 24, or 8 of them were going to be reserved for at-risk individuals. I think for the zoning, they could have used they could have had more density, but they chose to do less density. There's the company, I think, that developed the Palm Beach property. So they have 2 properties in town, and it's going to be, they mentioned that that's going to help them manage both of those, because they could share management and maintenance and so forth. But, so I think it's a good development for some much-needed senior and affordable housing. Any questions?
You need a motion on that?
Yes.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the zone change at 0 East Main Street.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cardinal, thank you. Any discussion?
Just glad to see this housing. So.
No further discussion. Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And Mayor, we would ask that you have a motion regarding the zone change recommendation for 1695 Lancaster Road too. You can make it subject to the conditions being updated if you're so inclined. But staff would request that you make direction known on that zone change request as well.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a
Just
second?
for clarity, is the motion to approve the recommendation that is presented with updated conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you,
Mr. Atkins.
Commissioner Atkins.
Mr. Cottle?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is a recommendation on Parks and Rec. Mr. Teague, floor is yours.
What's up, Evan? Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I think the last time you all heard from me with the update with Parks and Rec, we were getting ready to kick off our spring seasons with our baseball, softball programs, along with our day camp and our cheerleading camp that took place. So after the summer, we had some successful programs, and we're starting to get into the fall, and it's that time of year to kick those programs back off. So follow with me here. We are starting to take signups for our fall softball, baseball, and t-ball. Those signups began at the beginning of August, and they will run till the end of the month. Along with our youth baseball and softball programs, we have implemented a adult co-ed softball league. We're also currently taking registration for those as well. As of right now, we have 6 teams, so it seems like it's going to be a pretty good success. Along with adult softball, we had our first annual co-ed volleyball league that took place out at the park this year as well. We did have a total of 6 teams in that. It seemed about halfway through our season, we had a lot more interest and some people wanting to get involved, but unfortunately, we were already into our season. So with that being said, we've decided to hold a co-ed volleyball league this winter that will take place at Jenny Rogers Gymnasium. So we can migrate from the sand to the wood floor. So we're excited to see that. We're also very excited to see how our co-ed softball league takes place. So we went around to some factories and businesses around town and sent out flyers, let them know that we are having this league, and we look forward to that. Along with the pool, we're looking to close on Labor Day weekend. We had about 75 kids that entertained that pool all summer long with our children's day camp, along with the people throughout the community that made daily visits as well. We're also beginning our basketball signups, and that will begin in October. And we look forward to going into the winter sports with our basketball programs that take place. I think that I'd mentioned to you all at one point about the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, just to give you all some numbers where that stands. We currently have 775 kids enrolled in that program, and those kids are receiving a free book monthly. It's pretty neat. I know for myself, I have a 3-year-old daughter of my own, and she's received her 3rd book, and we always get excited to see that come in the mailbox. So if you all know any kids, again, that program takes care of kids from 0 to 4 years old, 5 years old. Let me correct that, I'm sorry. 0 to 5-year-old. So if you all know any kids, have them enroll. You can enroll at our Parks and Rec office or at the library. So I think that's awesome. I think our goal at the end of the year is to shoot for 1,000 kids. So we can currently hold up to 1,500 kids that can receive a book for that. So we're at 775 with just 3 months under our belt, which is amazing. Also, coming up next month, we will have soccer and youth football that will be taking place in the park on the weekends. The Boyle Youth Soccer Association has started their fall signups, and their games should be beginning around the 1st of September. So the park will begin to stay full throughout the weekend, along with our weekend tournaments that have been held throughout the course of the summer. I think we have expected about 6 more weekend tournaments, and then I'll wrap up our summer leagues. So, trying to bounce around here. I think that's pretty much all I have wrapped up right now. You know, we're looking forward to this fall season, getting our numbers out there and utilizing the park. I know that we have an upcoming turkey trot. It'll be a first annual turkey trot that's going to be held in the race. That'll be a Thanksgiving 5K that'll be held in Millennium Park this year as well. So
Is that before or after the meet?
let's hope before.
Yeah.
After the meal, I don't know how well that would go. For me, at least, it wouldn't go well. But yeah, that pretty much sums us up over at Parks and Rec. Like I said, we've had a busy summer. We've entertained a lot of kids throughout our community, as well as adults, and we look forward to continuing to do that.
Is closing the pool on Labor Day just a staff issue?
More so, yes. As of right now, we are only open on weekends. As far as guards go, majority of our lifeguards are college students, and once school begins, it's hard to fill those roles and have lifeguards on duty, as well as the numbers decline pretty heavy once school starts back as well. You know, once the kids begin school, they really don't have the opportunity to make it to our pool.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
That's all I hear. I mean, 10 years plus, everybody I knew were begging for adult leagues, so.
Yeah, we're
thank you,
excited
thank
about
you,
it as a
thank you.
staff, and we appreciate that very much, and we do have a good working staff that looks forward to fulfilling those needs, so.
You might need more staff. You're becoming very successful utilizing our great facilities. I always felt like we lacked programming. You know, the volleyball courts just sat out there empty, and, you know, you've added programming, and you've added to your numbers. So keep up the good work. I see it growing, and I just hear good things, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Item 10 is resolution number 2022-08-22-01. This is a settlement agreement for the opioid abatement. I have asked city staff to submit City of Danville in that settlement, and there's no downside to that. And if we are named as part of the receipt of funds, then so be it. Anything you want to add to that, Earl?
No, now's the time to enter, and that's what we'd certainly recommend doing.
Well, the 2 counties in Ohio got $653 million. Keep it up, and you're going to talk about real money. Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll move to pass resolution 2022-08, 2201, settlement agreement opioid abatement.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins, Commissioner Terry, sorry. Any further discussion?
Now, have we talked to, I'm sure we would if we got awarded this, talk to Kathy at ASAP and coordinate some efforts there?
Do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion will carry. Item 11 is resolution number 2022-08-22-02. This is a inducement for a bond resolution. Mr. Coffey, your name is listed here.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. We have in the audience Jim Parsons, and he's welcome to come to the microphone if you all, and so he could better address your questions and discuss the resolution and what action that is being undertaken. He's assisted us with counsel in the matter, and certainly we have Casey Bolton in the audience with Commonwealth Economics if you have any other questions on the financial end.
Mr. Parsons, we're glad to have you all the way from northern Kentucky and try to get you out of here as soon as possible.
That's fine. Glad to be here, Mayor and members of the commission. This is actually before you. I had not attended, but I believe that the developers made some presentations in the past to the board on this particular project. My name is Jim Parsons. I'm with the law firm of Kcn Audit and Kcn, and I'm representing the city of Danville in this particular matter of special counsel. It's my understanding that the city, at least tentatively, had agreed that it would move forward when appropriate on the issuance of industrial revenue bonds for this particular mixed-use commercial development that's being proposed by Team Leader LLC. Relative to that, just for informational purposes, industrial revenue bonds are really private activity bonds that are issued by a local government, city, county, or other authorized entity, or the state, actually, for mostly private development projects. There are different types of industrial revenue bonds you could issue, but in that circumstance, these bonds are, if the city agrees to move forward with the issuance of these bonds, the city is acting as a conduit bond issuer on behalf of the project. The debt by statute and otherwise clearly is not the debt of the city. The city is actually issuing the bonds, but all the financing of the project is the responsibility of the developer, including costs of the city. For instance, there's certain publication costs, things like that. All of that would be borne by the developer in that circumstances, all your out-of-pocket costs. This particular document basically, the benefit of industrial revenue bonds is that it allows the project, when this project moves forward, that the title of the project will be in the name, not only will we issue in the bonds, but the title of the project would be in the name of the city of Danville, and then lease back to the developer for the term of the bonds. We're looking at a 30-year term on these. And as a result of that, with bonds outstanding and also the lease concept being in place where the title is in the name of the city, the property is exempt from all local real estate taxes. And that is the benefit. In this particular situation, the property would be subject to the developer, the bonds would be issued subject to what we call an agreement in lieu of taxes, pilot agreement, whereby certain local taxing districts and the school district would receive a payment in lieu of taxes during the term of the bonds. At this point, the draft pilot agreement we have in place would provide a 100% payment to the city and local taxing districts based upon the current value of the property, and then the local taxing districts, except the school district, would receive a pilot payment of 20% of whatever the PVA value is for the new value created by the project. The plan is also for the school district to receive, instead of 20% pilot, a 50% pilot agreement, and that's the basic terms. Now, these things, the pilot agreement itself would still have to be approved by the county and by the school district. The city cannot issue bonds for this type of project and exempt, especially the school and counties taxes without their approval. The reason for that is another process after the resolution is adopted. There is a process we have to move forward to the state local debt officer, and they have to have a hearing in Frankfurt to basically allow you to issue bonds for this type of project. In Kentucky, there are about 15 or 16 different types of projects that are eligible to issue as industrial projects. They don't have to be industrial. Please don't let that get you thrown off. You can use them for residential projects. You can use them for commercial. They all fit within that definition of an industrial project. It's just that there's about 3 or 4 categories of projects that there's this other layer of approval that's required, and that's the approval for the state local debt officer. And primarily, that's set up to be sure that the city, county, and the school district is signed off on the pilot. And so as long as those things are signed off, the hearing actually is a virtual hearing, takes about 15 minutes. And there's really it's not controversial at all. So in this particular situation, this is a nuisance resolution that basically says that the city has expressed its intent to run out of. expressed its intent to issue bonds on behalf of the project whenever the developer is ready to move forward. And then usually what happens is the next step after this, when we get the pilot agreement approved by the city, by the county and school district, and at that point, we'd file the application with the state local debt officer for that hearing. And after that, at some point, whenever the developer's financing's in place and they're ready to move forward, we would actually come back before the board and actually adopt the official bond order issuing the bonds. This particular document, the inducement resolution, is not the issuance of the bonds. This is simply an intent to issue bonds at some point in the future for the project, and it does start the process to be in place. The project is around, I've indicated here, about a $40 million project. The total capital investment, I think, been presented was a little bit less than that. When I put together these documents, I usually estimate a little bit higher on the actual bond amount, because it could be the bonds are issued a year or so after this particular step. So I'll be glad to answer any questions for you relative to that, but that kind of outlines the process. And the other thing I want to make it clear, though, that everyone understands, this is not your debt. It won't show up on your financial statements as your debt. There might be a footnote or something in your financial statements that you've issued industrial revenue bonds for the project, but it's not subject to the full faith and credit or pledge of any other, your general fund on behalf of the city of Danville.
And all other taxes will be collected as normal.
That's correct. The normal tangible taxes for the project that would be generated, insurance premium taxes if you have an insurance premium tax, any other type of payroll, none of those are implicated by this. This only affects the real estate tax rate and the real estate taxes that would otherwise be due on the project.
And Mayor and Mr. Parsons, I would just add that I've had the opportunity to review the proposed agreement with the superintendent of Boyle County Schools, who is satisfied with presenting it with a recommendation for approval in its current form at its next board meeting.
We met with the county judge last week, and he is carrying that to the fiscal court, I think at his next available opportunity. I think they may even talk about it tomorrow. Yep.
So what is the risk, if any? And is this to prevent a project from going belly up, so to speak, because the developer is responsible?
There is simply no financial risk for the city at all. So the bonds, even if the developer who basically is responsible for building the project would go bankrupt, the property itself would be subject to, possible foreclosure. The city might be named as a party because you're the legal title holder, but will have no absolute responsibility for any payment of any cost and relative to that. So even in the event of a default, it's not the debt of the city. The city's not responsible for that.
Okay. That's what we needed to hear.
That is correct. And it's real clear under not only this document, there's specific references to that, but the statutes of authorizing industrial revenue bonds make it very clear that all costs relative to the project are responsibility of the developer and the tenant in that case, and the city has absolutely no responsibility for the debt.
The IRB is an incentive, and it motivates the developer to develop sooner, to take advantage.
Right.
That plays the time value of money into the city's favor.
Right.
The current revenue does not decrease, the current property tax specific. So only the real property tax revenue from the property does not go down. That is not incentivized. The marginal increase over time is the portion that's incentivized, but that is the only portion of future tax paid. And again, you are collecting a higher rate sooner. Theoretically, the property's been empty for essentially 25 years now, since the developer acquired. And we are hoping the developer is able to manipulate the property to have increased economic activity on the property sooner. And so then therefore you'll begin collecting insurance premium tax, the tangible property tax, the insurance premium tax, occupational taxes, all those. I know I repeated one, but you'll start collecting those sooner because of the incentivization.
You not only collect the payroll tax based upon the finished product, but you pick up the construction payroll tax also. TIF was another potential incentive that could have been used for this, but TIF is not on the table, so it has no impact on your occupational taxes whatsoever.
Do you have, seemed like you might have mentioned some before, an example or two just for the people who might be listening and not give them something tangible to think about or look at?
I can't give you examples in this area, but I will tell you if anybody's been to Northern Kentucky at all, and they've been to the Newport Aquarium or been to Newport on the Levee, or all of those projects have been financed with industrial revenue bonds, and none of them are this debt of the city of Newport. There's been a number of, we've been bond counsel on these projects, true industrial projects, as well as these mixed use or even residential projects all over Northern Kentucky and actually all over the state. Right now, I'm working Boyd County. I'm representing Boyd County on some potential development in there where they're doing this same situation. There's a project in Somerset, Kentucky that I'm working for the city of Somerset on. You might have heard of Horse Soldier Bourbon, that distillery project. We're using industrial revenue bonds. So it's a very common technique. It's actually significantly older in incentive than like TIF and things like that, because TIF really came about 15 years ago as a more viable deal. But there's just example after example of a use of industrial revenue bonds that have allowed development projects to move forward with no liability whatsoever on behalf of the local government.
You ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I move approval of Resolution 2022-08, 22-02.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion? Seems like back in the 80s, they really clamped down on the use of these.
Yeah.
When did they start to liberalize that back?
It really isn't liberalized, Mayor. What happened in that there was a period of time in the 80s when there were two types of benefits that industrial revenue bonds can provide a project. Initially, it was the property tax benefit, but for years and years, the financing on the bonds themselves could be issued as tax-exempt debt. And so what I mean by that is when you issue debt for direct projects of the city of Danville, the interest paid on those bonds are exempt from federal income taxes. And so as a result of that, you could actually get a lower financing cost because tax-exempt debt is usually at least 1% and sometimes more lower than what we call a taxable rate. But the Tax Reform Act of 1986 greatly clamped down on the ability to issue tax-exempt debt for these type of projects. There are still some examples where you can issue tax-exempt debt. For instance, if a charitable entity came in and asked and say they wanted to build a hospital or some charitable project, you could issue IRBs under a conduit financing deal, and they don't need the property tax benefit because they're already exempt from property taxes, but they could actually get their financing lower through through tax-exempt debt. The debt we're talking about here, though, the Kentucky law is very broad on how these could be done. So even though they're not exempt from federal income taxes, as far as tax-exempt debt, they are what we call taxable bonds. And so the interest on these bonds will be subject to federal income tax. They will be exempt from state income tax because actually any bond issued by a local government in Kentucky is automatically exempt from state income tax because bonds that you issue, even if it's a conduit, would be exempt from state income tax. But that's where it happened. It was the Tax Reform Act of 1986, which greatly changed and restricted how industrial revenue bonds could be used to finance tax-exempt bonds.
Thank you, sir.
We do want to confirm it is on the county's agenda for tomorrow.
Call for the question?
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Again, thank you for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Safe travels going
Thank
home.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Thank you, Casey.
Item 12 is a zoning map amendment discussion. And James Place, Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. Recall, we received a neighbor letter as being a landowner of Millennium Park, and we discussed having you all respond and created a letter of the city's opinion as adjoining property on the zone change that was there on the northeast corner of Millennium Park, the rehab center. This is a letter that we received from Planning and Zoning for the property at 0 James Drive, which is along Bergen Road. At this time, because you're a neighboring property owner at Bellevue, you got the letter, but at this time, we do not necessarily see a reason why the city should have any comment on the matter. We just wanted to make you aware as a neighboring property owner, unless you all had direction you would like to give staff.
Such as?
Anything that we've not thought of. We don't have a reason, as we've talked through it with all our staff, including the city attorney and engineering, and we are very well aware that there's need for expansion of the cemetery, but that doesn't play into this matter directly.
Okay. So no action necessary, correct?
Well, can I ask a question?
It was a
though?
matter of FYI,
Yeah.
sir, and go ahead.
I just wanted to get into our discussion, the difference between R1a and R1c.
Briefly, I can just describe that R1A is single-family residential large lot. R1C is still, it's a category that could provide for, with smaller lots, first of all, but I don't know if there's multifamily allowed in R1C. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you that. I don't think there is. I think it's just all lot size. So that would be single-family residential small lot. It's a way to increase number of units by having a reduced size lot.
The developer did develop the property to the west. The cemetery is the property to the south. There is property owned by the developer to the east that is also more dense. The area around it has varying densities. Some densities to the north are probably a little larger. Some densities on the northeast and southeast is as dense or more dense. Definitely the multifamily housing on the far east that is actually on a neighboring property is more dense. So it's a mixed use based on the surroundings, and it doesn't seem to create a conflict so far as we can see. But that's to be determined by planning and zoning as time passes.
That's your question, sir?
Well, I just thought we'd already dealt with this once before, but this is connected to the Colonial Heights property?
No, this is a
No.
different property. This is off St. James Drive, which is beside the senior care center. As you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Third Street.
Off Third Street.
Okay. All right.
It comes around the backside of Candlewood,
Okay.
on the other side from Colonial Heights.
It's on Candlewood side.
Is this going to connect, or will this be its own?
It will have some pass through into Heartland Drive and also into St. James at the minimum.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move right on into, Mr. Coffey, let me go ahead and do item 13A. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
This is the amendment to the comp plan. The floor is yours, sir.
All right.
Randy was going to do that.
Randy going to do that?
I am, yeah. So what we have in front of you, we've got a request to amend the fiscal year 23 compensation plan. What we're requesting is just after analysis of the organizational structure of a couple of departments, we're requesting a change on that. Currently, you have a position that's authorized as an accountant within the finance department. We're requesting elimination or removal of that position from the finance department. But then also, we're requesting adding that position as an accountant in the Parks and Recreation Department. And just for clarification, that position grading on the non-hazardous grading scale will remain the same. And so that is the change we're recommending on the compensation plan for fiscal year '23.
So the move appears on page 1. Under finance, you see the line struck. It moves to page 3 at the top, where it's added again in Parks and Recreation. We think that will be an improvement to their operations and provide better direction in terms of their accounting with the various sources of revenue locations. For example, concessions to the front desk at the center.
Any further questions? I need a motion on this, don't I?
Please.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion, please?
I'll move
Thank
to
you, sir.
pass the amendment to the comp plan.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, ladies. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Coffey, city manager
And Mayor,
report.
coincidental to that ordinance amendment, we would also ask that you consider for passage a resolution revising the authorized employee list, which is also accompanied with the ordinance that's on your desk.
Do I
It
hear a
simply
motion?
adds these positions.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
City manager report. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of weeks since the last commission meeting on related to the Development Corporation, the fire station grand opening. And we've done some interviews with some of our vacant positions. So we don't have a lot of follow-up per se. We'll try to include more information there. The next meeting, we're still trying to schedule the Economic Development Symposium. We would like to acknowledge disruptions to normal operations. The streetscape continues, although they are finding good progression in our opinion. We have met anecdotally with some folks on the street as we've walked it a few times, and the way they've broken the project with the sidewalk against the building being done is really, in our opinion, seems accommodating to the extent that you can accommodate during major construction like that. So we appreciate the community being patient as that progresses, and we appreciate the contractor's effort to speed that along. The fire station grand opening is this Friday, August the 26th at 11 a.m. We hope to have quite a few people there. We do believe that we have a couple of hundred at least that we would expect to be there. I hesitate to say, but we do hope that we have some various esteemed people here. We possibly could have the governor present if schedule permits, has been confirmed, but we'll see how that plays out. An importance of that is that in recent disasters across the state, the centers like our fire station surviving is critical. And I know that when we went to Eastern Kentucky, I accompanied the fire staff during their trip to drop off some of those surplus supplies. We hubbed out of the Fire Commission's Operations Center in Hazard, right? So those facilities are important during times of distress, and we appreciate the highlighting of that facility for this community in this region. By that, the acknowledgement of the importance of that infrastructure by their potential presence. And so we'll look forward to Friday, and if we'll review that again tomorrow with staff, and then we'll give the mayor an update on Wednesday, and then we'll proceed from there towards that day. Fire department, we want to acknowledge those guys over there and staff, the ladies that have helped. There's a lot of work. The contractor's been over there, a lot of cleaning, a lot of detailing. That, you know, it's one of those you want to clean up real good before you move in, but also we want to put in on a good look for Friday as well. And certainly the building's come together. There's a lot of furniture in place now that is new, and we just couldn't be more excited for those staff members and their effort as you've seen them this week spraying the concrete off and cleaning the windows and doing the things that those guys, you can see their pride in the facility. And we appreciate the leadership of that department and the staff of that department that's doing that. Public Works has been over there trying to polish up the Memorial Plaza as we are waiting on materials before that can be finished out, but we will make that presentable before Friday, and we appreciate Public Works' effort to build out what they could before Friday. And I think the plaque to the building got hung today, and we're excited about that, and the building's, in our opinion, is really coming together. So we'll move past those. These ordinances and ordinance amendments are forthcoming and updates. We'll leave those on the list. The auditors, we updated that last time. Continuing education for me, if you'll look at this second page of the attachment, review that this week if you have time. Provide us feedback if you want, and we can review that with you, and so you'll understand what's being proposed, and anything that we have to do to engage them will be done at the next commission meeting. We just want to make sure you see that and understand that that's the direction that we are leaning. It's about a 4-month process, and it's really involved. But we do think it could achieve positive results, and we're looking for a way to incorporate some of the ideas in this process more of longer term with the commission. We do believe with the vendor that opportunity could exist. Newsletter's underway. Planning and zoning updates. I have a scheduled meeting tomorrow with our consultant. And then we're following up with the regional cities meeting. The EDA meets Wednesday. Now, I would like to talk about Hazard and Eastern Kentucky for about 2 seconds. We went to Hazard. I mentioned that. That was our jumping off point. I've been there. We worked with fire staff to assess. We met with multiple fire personnel. We met with the fire chief in Hyman. We met with the city manager in Hazard. We met with the mayor in Hyman. We looked at that area. We drove the primary watershed that had the highest rate of incident. And right now, we are zoomed out trying to figure out exactly what they need. They are still in a state of, when I was there the week before last, they were in a state of shock still, obviously. It is very traumatic. It is more destructive than we can state here in a couple minutes. There are 2 examples we talk about when I try to describe it for people. We drove around a curve. There was this bottom on the right, and there was just a bunch of concrete pads out there. There was no homes. There was no remnants of homes. There was no, it was in the same way our airport, the concrete pads where the hangars were, except there was no debris left. The debris was gone. It was just clean concrete pads where mobile homes used to be, or modular homes, and there was many. You could drive down the creek, and there was homes laying in the creek. There was a situation where a home washed off a mountain, across the road to the other side of the road, and was upside down, and it was a full home intact. We turned around a corner. There was a gentleman sitting on a concrete block in front of a concrete pad. You're in a little bit of a state of shock, but when you're looking at it, you're sitting there. My knee jerk, oh, well, there's a basketball court. I don't know why I thought that, but that's literally what I thought. But then as I'm processing it, I'm realizing that, well, wait a minute, that's a home. And I'm looking at this gentleman, and he's sitting there holding a bottle of water, trying to figure out, looking at the ground, and I'm trying to figure out what he's doing. And I realize he has his child behind him playing in a pile of debris, and his wife is there playing with the child, and that is all they have. They don't, the problem that gentleman was facing was his car was gone, his financial resources to help himself was gone, his home was gone, the tools, if he was going to build a makeshift shelter himself, were gone. Everything he had literally was gone from the property. It was grass, except for the frame to his mobile home was wrapped around a tree. And so and he's 12 miles from food. He had two cases of water beside of him, right? And so his ability to even go get lunch he didn't have it. And he didn't have a way to create an ability to go get lunch. So he was totally dependent on the service of the people that were there. What we've tried to do is listen to we took a day and listened to what the folks had to say that were trying to respond. For example, the Mayor Hyman, who's Coincidentally, his home was destroyed. He indicated to me he didn't know when he was going to even go back and look. He was living in temporary housing, but he was working out of City Hall. That did not get damaged, fortunately. So we tried to listen to them. They had some basic needs that we tried to listen to, but having been through ice storms and been through some floods, what we did was we heard them, and then we tried to assess their infrastructure as if it were ours. And so then we followed that up with Marshall and a couple of other staff with different experience. We sent Todd down there, the electrician. We sent James, our IT person, and we assessed their pump stations and some things. We actually found some that they had not been to. We have created a report for both of those communities, asked them for some direction on what to do. We have followed up today. Tonight, we went down there with Andy, and Marshall is down there now, assessing the water plant in Hazard. The problem they had was they have some basins that have filled up with sludge. And we are trying to help them understand what to do about that. And there is a problem, compounding problem for Hazard is their chief operator there, Andy, died of a heart attack back in March. And so they are severely understaffed and undertrained, but we had been asked to go there before. We didn't really know why, but we found that that's the reason why. We found that out when we got there. So it is gut wrenching. It is very difficult to see, but we hope we can do some good.
Appreciate y'all going down there.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
We don't have any permission yet we can ask for because we really don't know yet. We're still just trying to figure out what role that we can play. They don't really know what their problems are yet either. They hadn't got out. There's places where pipes underground have been eroded away that that will be a problem again. The utilities that have helped have been there, tried to fix the immediate leaks. There's been a lot of immediacy of repairs, but their long-term help, a pump station goes underwater, the pumps are a problem, their control panel is a problem, their SCADA system's dysfunctional. So there's technical things that they need help with. So hopefully we can influence that in a positive direction over time. But when we figure out what our role would be, we'll present that to you.
Very good.
Yeah, let us know what we can do. Thank you. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Then we'll move into the section, I promise, called Hear the Public. Public's opportunity to take 3 minutes at the podium to discuss any item that is not on tonight's agenda. Former Commissioner Sears?
Troublemaker, always a troublemaker.
Always.
That's a nice segue because what I have is accolades and announcements. So I get a lot of feedback, even though I'm not on the commission anymore, about the progression of this city. And a lot of that has to do with the decisions made here. So pat yourselves on the back. Part of the things that make this a wonderful city, we've already done it, and that's Soul of Second, still here, left, okay, got his accolades. I don't know if everybody knows, but the Gold Wings are here. Honda Gold Wings are here, and I want to give credit to our tourism director, Kendall Clinton, for bringing them here. So they'll be here all week. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, sir. Oh, wow.
Hi. Jennifer Paycheck.
Who?
Jennifer Paycheck. I have a business here, and I brought you all some information about Deaf Festival. So in about 13 days, about 7,000 deaf people are going to descend on Danville. And because they're having Deaf Festival at the Norton Center inside Newland Hall. So I brought some information about that, and mostly I wanted to let the fire and the police chief know, and I've already talked with the emergency room, just to let emergency services know we're going to be open all weekend because of this, just because there's going to be so many people here that are either deaf or use sign language to communicate. So I just brought you some information about it. It's free. If you wanted to walk over, you're welcome to, but we're not affiliated with Deaf Festival at all. It's just, you know, we do a lot of business with Deaf Festival, so.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give these to you, Tony, and if you can, give them maybe who you think might need to know about it.
Jennifer, if someone needs your services, how will they contact you? That's interpreting services, by the way, for those that don't know.
Yes, I'll leave. I brought some information to leave with, I'll leave here, some for anybody who wants to pick some up. We're open all the time, but especially this weekend, this particular weekend of September 3rd, Labor Day weekend, will be available. We're going to have an open house, that kind of things, because people are going to be walking from KSD, because it's their 200th anniversary of the school, between here and Center College, because that's where Deaf Festival's being held. So, you know, they'll just be this little route kind of along. And I think a lot of people might come in for the whole weekend and stay with friends or whatever. So even though the festival is only Saturday, you might see people here for the whole weekend. That's really all. I just
So
wanted to let you know.
Are there enough, no, there aren't enough people to help communicate with 7,000 folks?
There is an interpreter shortage. There's not even enough interpreters for there to be 2 for every county in Kentucky. And we're lucky we have about 25 here that we use. We have a really good group. So, but no, there's not enough.
Have you been able to identify any particular businesses that are probably going to see more activity from the deaf community to where we could put someone in there? For example, hotels, I don't know.
You know, let me bring that to my staff tomorrow, and then I can shoot you an email.
Restaurants?
And let you know, because I definitely have already alerted the hospital and emergency services as far as just, you know, the ER. But let me talk with my staff tomorrow and see, other than, you know, fire,
And I think
police.
maybe if we gave some information to Heart of Danville, they could contact you know, let everyone be aware in the businesses. Is that possible?
We'll follow up with her. I wrote a note, and so we'll meet with staff tomorrow morning, and then we'll try to get together and try to choreograph that a little bit. And
Just some awareness.
there's some awareness, but some improved plan that we need to consider that may help, may benefit,
Maybe
and may
the-
stave off some problems.
Maybe the restaurants could have something on their systems
and you
or
could-
iPads or something.
Yeah, you could pass our number along to anyone. We're gonna have our phone up and running all weekend, that weekend.
What's your number
Just in case.
for the services?
859-236-9888.
And that is a 24/7 number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I'll talk with my staff tomorrow, and then we can get back with you as far as which hotels, your restaurants. I don't, off the top of my head right now, I don't want to be the only one for you to ask. Let me talk with them and get a better answer for you.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay? All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move right into, wait a minute, here comes the queen.
Yeah, they beat me today.
Yeah, you would wait till I'm about ready to move on.
Yes, ain't gonna be long. This thing's been overlooked at, the park of Michael M. Smith Memorial Park. The trees are growing so long, the leaves are almost touching the ground. And they need to be trimmed. They got some laying there, and some kid gonna run over and fall over one of them. And we having, what you call them little critters at night, what is it, possums? You got them down at the gazebo, it's a family. So that need to be taken care of, and they need a weed eat better around that little round, what you call them, monkey bars? They got grass growing up under them where they can get in there and take that weed eater and trim it down. I done went over it. And Michael Hughes' band was down there maybe about 2 months ago, but it started raining. They don't have a place to put their instruments out. I mean, they need something like a gazebo where they can keep the rain off of them. They got one out in Millennium Park. I was out there doing the day for the school when the kids was going back to school, where they got their backpacks. They need something like that. We got electric down there, but they was at the wrong place because I told them it was closer to Uncle Mike's sign, the electric box. They was further back. And when they have something down there, they need another bathroom up front. When they have something, just leave that other one down there because they using that regular. But that man in the band said, he couldn't be walking that far to the potty. What you call that, the mobile potty, whatever it is. And that's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm looking, trying to keep the park up.
Josh, you got all that?
Oh, good, okay. Michael already talked to him.
Thank you, ma'am.
You too, thank you.
You're not leaving us, are you?
No, not yet. I got to talk to Mr. Gray over about that white car down there. Car staying all night.
Tony, you've been warned. All right. We'll move right along into commissioner comments. Anyone?
I have a couple of follow-up questions.
Please.
Will we receive an agenda and instructions for Friday?
After tomorrow to confirm it.
Okay.
We have it ready to go. We just want to get past our last walkthrough.
Where are we on the service issues with Republic regarding the curbside pickup?
I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow. They're coming to town, Greg is, to sit down and talk about a few things. So I'll be addressing those again tomorrow.
Thank you. And we are talking with the hospital about a possible partnership on the aquatic center. Is there a timeline on that?
We are trying to set a meeting with them this week.
Oh, the residents that asked about Cowan Park, the overgrown issue next to the residents, they said thank you for getting to that very quickly. They had not gotten a response for many years, and he said they were out there the next day. So thank you all for that. And I was going to ask about the coaching services, and you answered that. And the new street sweeper looks very nice. It's doing a very good job. That's it.
I think it is this Saturday or Friday that they're having the special pickup at the recycling center for paints, solvents, batteries, anything that you can't normally put into
Tires?
tires. No tires,
No
no
tires.
tires, no tires,
No
that's right.
tires.
Anything else that needs to, so if you got your, look under you, in your basement, you probably got 6 cans of, got paint about that much in the bottom of them.
Exactly, yeah.
That's all I have. Anybody else have anything? Seeing none, we'll move right on into item 14, payment of the bills.
I move. Take a bill list, $297,000 plus.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 15 is the second reading of Ordinance 1998, the property tax rates. Madam Clerk, you want to read that ordinance, please?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 1998, an ordinance establishing ad valorem tax rates for fiscal year 2022 through 2023 and penalties for non-payment.
Offer a motion to approve second reading of ordinance 1998 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Terry, thank you, ma'am. We are in discussion. Ms. Compton, anything you want to add to this?
No, I just recommend you approve the second reading.
Okay. No further discussion. Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Nope, I'm sorry. Yep,
Gotta do everything over there.
yep, thank you.
Commissioner Cottle,
Yes.
Commissioner Terry,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes.
Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 16 is resolution number 2022-08-22-03. This is a surplusing of the street sweeper. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, since the new street sweeper has arrived, we have received a request from the city of Stamford to surplus our old street sweeper to them. They are offering to pay the amount of $2,850 to the city for our street sweeper. So we are recommending that we declare our older street sweeper as surplus and sell it to the city of Stamford.
Denise offered you $2,900, she told me.
Do I hear a motion?
I thought we would get to drive the new one.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Holland,
Second.
thank you.
Third.
Any
fourth.
discussion? Tell Mayor Miller he's getting a deal.
Yes.
You gotta come pick it up, though, right?
No further discussion. Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 17 is resolution number 222-08-22-04. This is a bid award for the tennis courts earthwork. Mr. Morgan, continue, sir.
Yes, in an effort to expedite the tennis court project, to get some work happening out there, we bid out just the earthwork grading portion of the project. We received one bid on August 16th from the Allen Company in the amount of $411,989. You know, we need to get this project moved along, but we reviewed that bid, and we think we can, after reviewing it with our consultants, we think we can get better bids if we try to get some more interest. Turner Construction that we hired last meeting to help us with the bid processes is already kind of showing their value, and they've reached out to several contractors, and they think if we rebid this, we'll get some better pricing. I said, are you all sure we can get this project done in the allotted time if we do this? And they've assured me that we will. So we're recommending that we reject this bid. We've spoken to the Allen Company about it. They're understanding of the situation. We're recommending we reject the bid, and we already have scheduled it to be advertised tomorrow if we move forward with this, with the recommendation. And we'll have it ready to award hopefully at the next meeting in 3 weeks.
I'll offer a motion to approve resolution 2022-08-2204, which rejects the bids that was accepted, that was received.
Motion made by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Wait a minute. Don't we need to? Never mind.
Commissioner Cottle. Thank you for your second. Any discussion?
Oh, you got anything else? Anything else you want to pick on?
No.
Okay. All right.
No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Item 18 is resolution number 2022-08-22-05. This is the contract approval for the KSD School Resource Officer. Mr. Craig, Chief Craig.
Yes, Mayor, you have the contract with KSD for the school year. It'll be a 10-month contract, $31,000. They will reimburse the city. It's just for 10 months, same as the Danville High School contract.
Do I hear a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion?
Tony, is this the first for KSD?
This is the first for KSD.
Wow, that's great.
They want to go to a 24-hour since they are a campus facility. We'll try to move that way next year.
Do we have any officers that know sign language or might take a class?
They will
or-
be, yeah, they have a class that they offer for
Great.
officers down there.
Okay, thanks.
Sergeant, retired Captain Davis, Todd Davis will be their SRO officer for the coming school year.
Item 19 is resolution number 2022-08-22-06. This is the agreement with Dinsmore and Shoal Engagement. Counselor
Mayor.
Dexter.
You all didn't vote on that last
I was
resolution.
afraid you'd say that. All in favor of the resolution previously, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now, move right on. Counselor Dexter, where'd he go?
He decided to take a break. We will try. The resolution authorizes the city to join in to the letter sent to the Kentucky Attorney General seeking an opinion on the constitutionality of the restaurant tax being allowed by some communities and some other based on and not others based on the standard that established the eligibility for the tax was done many, many years ago, and that subsequent grading standard for who's eligible has been vacated. And so we are been asked to participate, and certainly it is not a bad thing. It is asserting the city of Danville's rights on equal footing as other cities, instead of the treatment now is perceived as that there's a difference between, for example, the city of Harrisburg and the city of Danville. The city of Harrisburg can have the tax, the city of Danville cannot. And so it is seeking clarification from the Attorney General of the opinion of the constitutionality of the law that permits that discrimination.
I offer a motion to approve 2208, 2206 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, thank you, ma'am. We're in discussion.
Here
I
comes
should say
Mr. Dexter.
perceived discrimination between the cities.
The hope is that it will not only affect this, but it will open the door to a lot of clarification. We've had home rule cities, but you still got all these ordinances that segregate out, and that just needs to go away.
And there was a reclassification of all cities. Do
And
we know
that-
what year that happened?
Pretty much eliminated.
It's been quite some time now. It's probably 5 or 6 years.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so technically, there is no classification, correct?
Right.
Well, the law, though, that went into effect said going forward,
Right.
there shall be no references to a classification system. So abolished it moving forward, but didn't undo any previous laws designating the classification system. So the legal question is that constitutional?
Right. So there it is in a nutshell. Any further?
Prior to that law, though, I should say, there were constitutional cases upholding the classification system. So there would have been no justification for overruling equal protection claims under the Constitution because of those longstanding cases. Now, it may have been ripe for reconsideration, which I had shared prior to the law being changed, but the law being changed gives more credence to treating two classes differently, absent a compelling governmental interest, and we'll see.
I want to give kudos to Counselor Dexter, because he advocated this with me 6 or 7 years ago, before your time, sir.
Just for informational reasons, I would just like to read for the public's knowledge the other cities
Certainly.
that are on this. cities of Ashland, Bowling Green, Campbellsville, Danville, Florence, Frankfurt, Glasgow, Hazard, Henderson, Hopkinsville, Middlesboro, Owensboro, Radcliffe, Richmond, Paducah, and Winchester.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Chair call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Ready for another motion?
Motion carries.
You ready for another motion?
Is it for executive session?
Go right ahead.
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have need for an executive session?
I tried. I tried.
Then personnel, Mr. Atkins, you want to read that for personnel? Go right ahead, sir.
12 years and 0 attempts.
Well, we're going to sit here until you do.
I'm hungry.
What?
Might have to change that in the future.
Okay. I'll move to go into executive session for personnel pursuant to KRS 61.8101F.
You did a pretty good job.
We have a motion. Do I hear a
Second.
second? Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We're going into executive session. Everyone have a nice evening. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We're in regular session. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. Staff is recommending the hiring of Melanie Crossfield to the position of Community Liaison.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Welcome aboard.
Motion carries. Next.
Staff is recommending the hiring of Destiny Price to the position of Telecommunications Officer.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Continue, sir.
Staff is requesting you accept the letter of resignation of Monica Hasty effective Friday, August 26th.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
I
Thank you all.
want to hear Jenny discuss something.
Whistle, whistle. Can you whistle? Do we hear a
That was her-
motion to adjourn?
That was her
Move to
motion to
adjourn.
Do we
adjourn.
hear a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Have a good evening, everybody.